This is Wednesday, July 5th. There are 14 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2023. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go. Oh my god, I love Live Journal and my Live Journal wants me. Current food is slapped around till current music. Refuge 73. I love the color scheme. It's pink and purple. It looks sweet.
Well, hello, everybody. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Also joining us from the blog, Erin Tapkin.
Hi, everybody.
And our special guest this evening, the managing editor at Fandom, Eric Goldman.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me again.
Well, thanks for coming. And welcome, everyone, to that point in con prep where you have to ask, is there time to get this shipped? We'll take your comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConcast. We'll also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there.
This season of the SDConCast is sponsored by Adrenalizing Media. They're heading to San Diego Comic-Con, where they've teamed up with 3D Retro to invite you into the universe of In Our City, a district set in present-day central western Germany. The universe follows Rico Stahl, an ex-military, as he battles with both his past and present while returning to the In Our City PD. The franchise will begin as a comic book series titled In Our City Stories Extreme, which will lead into a feature film, In Our City, tentatively scheduled for 2025. Find them at Comic-Con at booth number 2548 to meet the creators, legendary composer Vince DiCola, who you may know from Transformers the movie, stunt master Andy Ching, and you can also get your comics signed by cover artist Lucio Perillo, Carly Cohen, Ralph Paul, and Eric Goldman. Again, that's booth number 2548. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I just want to say thank you again, Eric, for joining us. And to everybody watching us live, you are not allowed to ask Eric about the fandom party because he doesn't know when tickets are going up either.
I don't. I'm not in control. I'm sorry, guys.
Yes. So just want to get that out of the way. But we are here to talk about what the heck the panel schedule is going to look like, which starts coming out tomorrow. And it's a weird year. So
what do you mean?
What do I mean? So let's talk about this. So a lot of studios have obviously announced that like they aren't going this year for how in whatever capacity that means. I mean, I do think some of these studios will still be there with like offsites or other things, but how much of that do you think is the strikes, and how much of it is it just the studios not having enough to bring this particular year, which is not like an uncommon occurrence?
I mean, I think the strike is pushing it over the top, right? Because there are scenarios like for instance, like we're in a very strange place. It already happened last year where Warner Brothers / CW, who used to be a huge part of Comic-Con and have like a million shows, last year didn't it end up being none because Riverdale didn't end up going. So we were already in that place where you've got stuff like that, changes behind the scenes, changes in the entire infrastructure that might make some things ebb and flow. But when you compound that with the writer strike that's happening, the actor strike that's threatening to happen, I think that's the overwhelming reason it's happening this year, because I think it puts anyone who's on the cusp who are having those conversations about should we go or shouldn't we decide, nah, not this year. It makes the decision for them in a way. So I think that's why, the main contributing factor to why more people wouldn't go this year.
Absolutely. And we are very online people. So we see all the time, people talking about Comic-Con's dead, like the studios are all pulling out. But again, like there's a very specific reason this year, which is the writer's strike. I mean, from your perspective, would you say that like the studios want to go and put on like a big show and they just feel like they can't this year?
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, I mean, Comic-Con, we and everyone, can debate like, has it quote unquote peaked or whatnot, but it's still a huge deal. And I think last year you saw like, hey, there was still huge things going on and huge announcements made and giant stars. But I think that, you want to kind of put your best foot forward, and having this, huge uncertainty, knowing, first and foremost, we're talking about TV here, right? You can't bring your showrunner because TV shows are different than movies. Movies don't normally bring the writer. we can talk about, that's a whole other conversation. But TV is a, writer's medium, and the showrunner is so important and becomes a very well-known, if you're a fan of the show, you usually know the showrunner's name way more than you might know a screenwriter's name of a movie you like. They already know they can't bring that person who would be the person who is the main person saying, here's what's going to happen next season on the show you love. And they might not be able to bring the cast, which is really, that just kind of kills you on the TV side, because no offense to TV directors, but they are like the lesser and compared to movies. So I think that's your really big problem here, is that they're like, yeah, we could go, but we are so hampered by what we could actually do and talk about, and all that fun banter with the cast and all the audience questions. And I ship you, are you going to get together next season? That's all out the window if you don't have all those people, if you don't have the showrunner, and you might not have the actors. Those are giant problems for TV.
With animation, the writers are with the Animation Guild, not the Writers Guild.
Right.
That's one of the big reasons we've seen a ton of animation stuff announced. Would any of those actors be affected by a potential SAG-AFTRA strike for animation as well? Do you know the crossover there?
So I asked this question recently of a couple friends of mine, because I was curious too, because I think, we all kind of know at this point that animation writers aren't affected, and they can go, right now they can go to Comic-Con, even though the Writers Guild is striking, because they're not part of that guild. I was told that most, if not all, of the actors are SAG though on those shows. So that would be more problematic. Now, again, at least you could have the main creative force. And, we do see celebrity, animation creators, and people love the people who are behind these shows. And that carry a panel? And I think the answer is yes, by the way. But I don't think if SAG went on strike, and again, right now, we have this extension and we have to wait another week to find out. I don't think it would be the voice actors. I think it would just be the creators. But that's a lot. That's still meaningful. That's still someone who can have an entire conversation about what the themes of the show are and what they want to do on the show next season, plot wise. So I don't want to say, I want to say asterisk, like I'm not 100% I'm correct about that actors thing, but I have been asking the same question, and I don't think they can if they strike.
Yeah, that would be rough. So if they have these panels, whether they are animation or for an actual show, what do you think they're actually gonna bring? I mean, are we gonna get like an episode, clips, just producers?
That's the thing, and it all depends on where they were in their production schedule, right? Because you have shows that haven't filmed a single frame of the next season. Some of them because of the writer's strike. We knew there were things that were about to go into production and didn't because of the writer's strike. There are things that even if they hadn't started filming, at least would be like have written a pretty good amount. So I think you're going to have a mix. You're going to have things that can show you an episode, right? That's they're far enough along, and that could actually, of course, help a lot. Like, oh, we have to fill an hour. Well, if we show them a 44-minute episode, there you go. And maybe you could have here. Let's go to the worst case scenario, right? There's an actor strike on top of a writer strike, and you still want to bring some TV shows, or you were committed to it, or whatnot. The shows that have produced episodes can bring a new episode because that's something cool to show people. And yeah, you might be able to have either a director or a non-writing producer do a quick, Q&A after. But I think it's the stuff that's in between filming that's going to have a real problem, where you might see things just straight up drop out because, if you can lean on Comic-Con panels for a beloved show that hasn't filmed a single frame of next season to all be what we want to see happen. Oh, that exciting stuff that happened this past season. But that needs the group of people. It needs the showrunner and the actors there to do that, to carry that, to say, I love that storyline for my character. I'm hoping next season this can happen for them. And if you don't have those people, I don't know how you carry an hour if you don't have a new episode. And that's where I think you might get outright cancellations of things that, we're about to see. Again, we're so curious with the schedule. Here's where I'll repeat what I said a few minutes ago before we start recording, which is I'm so curious now that they don't know if there's a strike going into this announcement of the schedule, if they list things that might have to be canceled in a week, or don't list them and hope they can add them in a week. Because if they list them, I think if there is a strike in a week, some things would just drop off because they'd be like, if we don't have a new episode, if we don't have cool new footage to show, we can't carry an hour without that cast, So I think that's going to be a huge debate, and it'll all depend on where in the production schedule they are.
If you were an
Absolutely.
attendee, which would you prefer? That they just don't have anything on there and then they add it later, or that they have it on the schedule with the caveat that, hey, this could change?
I think I'd prefer not be on there just because it'll be even more sort of sad and be like, oh, they were good. And I know right now it's this weird situation, right? Because so many of us like have, badges for Comic-Con, and people paid money to go to Comic-Con. And then when you do that, you don't know exactly what you're getting, but you're like, hey, there'll be some stuff I like. I know that. And right now you're not actually 100% sure if that's, but I think right now we're only 2 weeks out now. Yeah, I'd prefer not knowing, I think. And then a week, a few days before, okay, cool. Because I think most people, I'm sure, I can't speak for everyone, I'm sure there will be some people who maybe decide not to go to Comic-Con because of all this. But I think most will go. And maybe they'll play it by ear. Do I stay for all 4 days this time? I don't know. We'll see. But if you did have some last minute announcements of really cool stuff, because there is no actor strike, I think that would probably play better than having in the next 4 days a bunch of things be listed that sound really cool and then they don't happen.
So I have another question. So obviously the deal with the writer's strike, at least, is they can't go on to panels to promote like their studio projects with the studios. But I know that at ATX, which I know you've been to as well, they worked with the WGA, and kind of the way that they worked around that was they just had like a bunch of generic panels about writing. And they did it that way so that they could still have the writers there. Do you think we'll see a lot more of that kind of stuff? Like maybe even for actors, more of like the EW kick-ass women approach?
Maybe. I don't know about a lot more, but maybe a few more. Yeah, because what it really sounds like is that no one will do anything if they're on strike in conjunction with the studio, right? So it's like they won't do an official panel where they're brought by the publicists in the studio, but they're kind of free to do their own thing, which and they can talk about the things they're on. I mean, I'll bring you guys way back to the fact that when the strike happened in 2007 and 2008, I covered it. I went to like a lot of the picket lines and interviewed people, and sometimes I would throw in questions about like when the show comes back or when you do get to write again, and they would answer them usually. So I think that's the situation you're in, and I think maybe we could get a few more of those, right? Like those themed panels. And, action TV show writers or something like that, and get some people together. And I wonder if people are kind of scrambling to maybe try to pull some of that together. And I think, I'm sure, look, of course, writers are not a monolithic group, though everyone will have their own opinions. And some people might think, that's walking the line too much. I don't want to do that. And other people might say, that could be fun. I could sit on a panel with my friends who write for other shows, and we can just talk about it. And I don't feel like I'm being a shill for the studio that I'm striking against, right? Because it's not exactly that. And we're not going to do the official presentation with fancy clips from the new season. So maybe a few more of those, I think, might happen.
If SAG doesn't reach an agreement, and since the writer's strike doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, what are the chances that we see an actual picket line at Comic-Con?
That's a good question. I know there's been like talk about that. For what it's worth, as someone who follows a lot of people on writers' Twitter, I haven't seen a ton of talk. I've seen a couple people mention stuff like that. I mean, again, not wanting to speak for anyone, I'm not a WGA writer, but I would feel like they wouldn't do it just to do it. If they did it, I think it would be something specific happening. If they felt the line was being crossed in some way, no pun intended, like if they felt like something was happening that felt like unseemly to them with the strike, I don't think they'll just do it, maybe a few might, but I don't think a giant group will come. It would depend on if like a studio played this in a really bad way, or if something seemed weird about how I was doing, and then maybe you'll get some, hey, maybe they can drown out the people saying we're all going to hell. I'll take that.
Well, I know we've had a lot of internal conversations about like the difference between a picket line and then just like a protest, because obviously like an official picket line at Comic-Con would potentially cause issues with other union members being like, hey, I'm in this other union, but I work and I've got stuff to do here at Comic-Con. So, I mean, do you think that like if we did see folks that, again, it would basically be more of a protest than an official picket line.
Yeah, and maybe that's even sort of a weird murky thing that is same difference. I'll tell you a funny thing. A few weeks ago, I went to a screening of Extraction 2 at the Netflix offices, and it was my first experience of feeling like I was crossing a picket line because there were people outside picketing from the WGA, and I was going into this office to, watch a screening of a movie that I'm going to be doing an interview for. And it felt a little weird, even though, again, I'm not WGA, I wasn't scabbing or anything, but I made sure to honk a lot, and I had a really fun conversation with the leader, because they will, the way it works is they'll block the entrance for sort of a few rounds, and then they will disperse to let people in and out for a couple minutes. Then they'll go back and block, and so it does take longer to get in and out. But I just honked a lot of support, and I was joking around with the guy doing thing, and we had a good rapport about hey, my point being, they understood I wasn't screw you writers, I'm going in here because I support Netflix. They know that people have to do things and go in and out. So I think if there was a group at Comic-Con, it'd probably be a similar energy, and you'd probably have a lot of very supportive people, and you might not be able to honk your horn if you're walking in a giant crowd at Comic-Con, but you can cheer for the writers and talk to them and things. And I think the energy might be on that sort of positive level. I don't think it'd be screaming, angry, how dare you go to Comic-Con? It'd be more hey, support us while you're going to Comic-Con, which I think we could do.
What do you think are the long-term ramifications of the strikes? And do you, as far as their impact on Comic-Con, do you see this as being just this is a blip in the history of SDCC, sort of like the pandemic was a blip? Or do you think it's going to spark a more permanent exodus of studios deciding that they don't need Comic-Con to promote things?
I think it could always be that that small amount, right? Because you could have people look, again, I brought up Warner Brothers because clearly there was so many changes behind the scenes happening with that company a year ago that we're still feeling, reverberations of now. And it seems like maybe the people in charge there have made this huge decision that, hey, Comic-Con, because he used to bring 30 shows or something, Warner Brothers TV, that, hey, we don't invest that. And they weren't saying we're not going at all, but they're we're going to be very selective and specific about it. And maybe you get more of that. I don't think you're going to see Sony TV and Disney TV and all these companies be you know what, we're never going back to Comic-Con. I think that what we were already seeing, this might, speed up a little for some, which is let's be more selective. Let's decide what we should send and when, and not just send everything because there was obviously that time when Comic-Con was just, hey, we have a show and it's popular and maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with genre, it's going to Comic-Con. That had already slowed down, and maybe this will slow it down a little more, but I don't think it'll just turn off the faucet and next year, assuming there's no strikes of any sort, that none of them come back. I think it would be more okay, I think we should still come back for this and this and this. Maybe we don't bring, the 15 things we would have once brought.
Speaking of if, next time there is another strike, we've also been talking about this a lot internally, and I don't know the answer, but maybe you do. Mm-hmm. So, I know that the last time they striked was from November to February. So do you know how this timeline came about where now these contracts are ending in July? Because I don't feel like that's normally the case, right?
I don't know. That I'm not privy to. Two things. The thing you ask about it ending in July versus it ending in November years ago. And also the fact that they all were so on top of each other.
Yeah.
That didn't happen last time, when I think maybe they were a few months apart, but it was the fact that it was the writers and then just a few weeks later, actors and directors on the same day, their contracts were up. So I don't know. I do know, I remember, I know that when the pandemic happened, there was some extensions and some tabling of issues, so maybe that sort of changed some of the regular timelines, but it is strange, right? You'd expect it to be every 3 years in November or whatever.
Yeah.
And instead it was just completely different.
It is. Again, we are absolutely on the side of the writers, but we also enjoy, having a normal Comic-Con. So we keep joking, every 3 years, do we have to wonder, hey, is Comic-Con going to be normal this year? So
no, yeah, I have coworkers who've been oh, what was it like last time with Comic-Con and this? And I was no, it was over. It was done. It never really came. We might have had the most ethereal, conversation in February about what if this is still going on at Comic-Con, but then a month later it was done and we just didn't have to worry.
Yeah.
But that leads me to, speaking of your coworkers and yourself,
Mhm.
how does this affect you and your ability to do your job of going to Comic-Con and covering things?
It's tricky, guy. It's tricky. By the way, as a total aside, I just realized I didn't plan it this way, but I'm drinking from an Indigo Ballroom community cup given out
Nice.
many years ago at a community panel. Yeah, it of course it affects it because we are building a schedule with interviews. Now, A, it's already not as robust as it normally would be. And B, everything's tentative, right? It's like we have booked a bunch of interviews, or we've had some talks about some possible interviews, and we know in a week they could all go away. It's the trippiest thing. Being like, oh, what do we, and I think I can say this. This is not like a shocking. No one would want to. Fandom would say, "Don't tell me." Like I think we're sending a little less people than we were gonna. It's like you think about these things. It's just like, yeah, it's already obviously not going to be as huge as it normally would be, if anything. And then there is the version where in a week the actors go on strike and we lose a bunch of things we've booked. So yeah, it's tricky. And we've talked a lot about what is the, and not even plan B, plan C, if that happens, and how much you're sort of going to lean into, because we have a room booked at the Bayfront for interviews, like a lot of people. And it's like, well, we might have very minimal interviews. There might be a few still for non-TV and movie projects. But then what else? Oh, what kind of conversations can we do, or coverage about the convention? It's really tricky. This is the really big, weird thing from my perspective. And I made a couple tweets about it. It's like, trying to plan for this while not knowing if anything you're planning is actually going to happen, And I'm talking, look, I won't name any names or studios here, but it's like, yeah, I talk to publicists, and sometimes we're all just putting up our smiling front, and a couple people I'm a little more friendly with, I'm like, so how are you feeling about this? Because we're both, everyone's just like going forward like it's a normal Comic-Con, and at the same time we're like, well, we don't know. We don't know if any of these actors that we're supposed to talk to are actually going to be physically present in 2 weeks.
Well, it's definitely, honestly though, this is the most interesting year, I think, ever.
It sure is, right?
Maybe that's not a good thing, but it's not boring.
Not boring. Yeah.
Well, we love having you on every year, Eric. Is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as like what TV you think might be there? I'm not asking you for any like scoops or anything.
Right. More some stuff that won't be there that's interesting. Like, not that anything was surprising. It's like, okay, like Marvel put out their schedule of what panels they're doing, and sort of we already knew Marvel Studios wasn't going with the big Hall H thing, but remember a year ago they did another panel in Ballroom 20 with all the animation as well. We saw an episode of What If that still hasn't aired, which is funny. We have no idea when it will air because they still haven't announced the actual air date for season 2. And then hearing Netflix wasn't going, I thought that was, it's funny because, every time when I've come on here each year, we always talk about how it's really on the TV side most of the time, the studios, not the networks, that do the actual booking and bringing and planning for Comic-Con. So it's like I'm dealing with Warner Brothers TV. Well, again, I'm using an example from the past. In the past, I was dealing with Warner Brothers TV way more than the CW network when they were bringing all those Arrowverse shows. Netflix not going is interesting just because I'm like, last year, one of the only Warner Brothers TV things that did go was The Sandman. Yeah. Which was also, I think, the only Netflix thing. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else Netflix last year. I don't think there was. But, in my mind, I'm already thinking of all the what ifs of if there wasn't these strikes and how things could be different. Because I'm like, wow, and I mostly this is like a sort of wishful thinking because I love the show and whatnot. But it's like, oh, I wonder if Cobra Kai would have gone for their final season. Which would have been a couple months into production right now, but they never started filming because of the writer's strike. So I'm like, I can see the reality where Sony, who produced that show, and Netflix bring it for its last hurrah. We know they don't take nearly as long to produce a season as Stranger Things. So presumably it would have aired before the next Comic-Con. So this would have been their chance. And just thinking like, that's not going to happen, Maybe it'll happen next year, though, if this strike goes long enough, That's the crazy thing is we just don't know. So, yeah, a lot of my thoughts are that sort of like all the things, especially as we get the schedule coming out, being like, oh, the things that I definitely think would have gone if not for, because like we've mentioned, it's like there are a million reasons things don't go to Comic-Con, and I'm sure you guys probably talked a few weeks ago about when it was like, well, HBO's just not going, and it's like, well, but Last of Us, like their House of the Dragon, they probably never were going this year because of their production schedules. But there is a year where a lot of things would have gone again, because I don't know how much you guys paid attention to Tadam, the Netflix convention online thing, where it was weird because they had to have a lot of presentations that were just actors talking, like Cobra Kai, which would have had footage, would have had scenes to show, but we're not filming. So yeah, that's again, bringing full circle here. That's the problem of like trying to do panels. If you don't have episodes or cast, that's
absolutely sort of a problem.
I mean, you guys, again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating things that you guys have probably observed, but it's like that's the big difference I think on the movie side is you could do a big movie panel with just the director. Like just it's perception. It's the way, like for an upcoming movie, like it's like, hey, here's a cool new looking movie. We've got some great new footage. We've got this director that really respected, and him, and he can talk about it. On TV, it's just people have a different relationship with TV, and they're like love the cast, and they know the showrunners, and they love or hate them based on their decisions. But it's so much different on TV, which is why I'm so curious what's gonna happen here.
It's gonna be interesting. I know. I'm like dying to see it. Okay, well, thank you again, Eric, so much for joining us. We love having you on every year. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, as it's if your rate limit is not exceeded. You can find me on Twitter at the Eric Goldman. You can find me on Instagram at the Eric Goldman. I just signed up for Blue Sky and Threads because I don't know what it's gonna be the thing that, but I'm the Eric Goldman on all of those. You can find my writing at fandom.com. And I have a podcast. Me and Matt Fowler have a weekly podcast called the We Enjoy Podcast, where we talk about movies and stuff. And if you need more people talking about pop culture, and I know you do, please listen to the We Enjoy Podcast, available places where you listen to podcasts.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Eric, for joining us. And hopefully we will see you around at Comic-Con.
I will look for you guys at Comic-Con, and we'll talk about what is or isn't happening. Guys, it was a pleasure as always. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Take care. Bye.
Well, I mean, that's about what I thought he was going to say, but it's always great to talk to Eric.
We almost don't need Strike Talk with Carrie.
I don't think we do.
So much.
That was Strike Talk with Carrie.
That was
Carrie
Strike
and Eric.
Talk. Yeah. I'll talk the strike all day long. No, I mean, I think that was Strike Talk. So we are excused from Strike Talk. And let me look at a calendar. Next Wednesday is the deadline on the extension. Ooh. So maybe by next week, like we'll know something.
Yeah, or because isn't the final podcast on Tuesday?
On Tuesday,
so I guess it's the day before. It's the day before.
Maybe you should push it to Wednesday so we can talk about it.
Maybe we'll know.
Maybe we'll know.
Speaking of, let's just real quick, we'll do it again at the end. Let's just go over what our remaining podcast schedule is, James.
Yes.
All right. So what we're doing is our annual Breaking Down the Schedule podcasts. And the first one we are doing on Friday night at our normal time of 6:30 Pacific. We will be covering Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday schedules. And then on Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, we will be covering Saturday and Sunday schedules. We're going to cover the largest rooms, probably the 6 or so largest rooms. We're going to talk room flow. We're going to talk, when you need to line up, all the things that will hopefully make your Comic-Con run smoothly based on however many years of experience we have going in and out of those rooms. We're going to talk about some smaller panels that you may not notice on the schedule and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot.
You have a very special guest on Friday, don't you?
Who do we have on Friday?
It's also like, who do we have?
Don't you have Sarah?
Oh, we have Sarah.
Yeah.
She's never on.
It's her first time this year, I think.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, she's been on the Patreon once, but
She
yeah.
has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah is awesome, for the record. If you like that shirt that I posted today, that was all Sarah.
Yes.
So
Yes, indeed. So, and then the final SDConCast of the regular season before Comic-Con is next Tuesday, as mentioned, on I think it's the 11th. And that's at the normal time. And then we're all going to Comic-Con. And then when we're back, the Tuesday after Comic-Con on the 25th, we'll have our wrap-up show. And we'll talk about just exactly what happened at this con that we really don't know what's happening yet.
I mean, you
All
take that.
the questions will be
I'll be at an
answered.
Airbnb. Yes.
Yeah. So join us for all of those upcoming shows.
Okay, well, let's get into the news then. So again, the official panel schedule starts coming out tomorrow. The way that they do it every year is Wednesday and Thursday come out together on Thursday, because the Wednesday schedule is so short that they're like, we're not going to post a schedule that's like 3 panels. That'd be dumb. So they don't. So Wednesday and Thursday come out together. We do, though, have a list of, I haven't counted recently, but probably like 120, 150 or so panels, including, again, several TV shows and movies. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not as robust as it would be in a normal year, but still, we know several things. And I'm just going to read real quick through a couple highlights, like the Venture Brothers animated movie, Ghost, the TV show. Max is bringing a bunch of their animated stuff, including Harley Quinn. That's on Thursday. On Friday, we've got Justice League Warworld having its world premiere. The Continental will also be on Friday. On Saturday, Babylon 5. The new animated movie is coming with the whole cast. Critical Role will be there with 2 panels. Heels. Let's see here. And then there's also Miraculous Ladybug and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new Paramount movie, will be there. And then Kevin Smith will be on Chasing Amy.
And as Eric mentioned, like Marvel's bringing a whole slate of their comic panels. I think like 5 or 6 panels at least. Some of them are going to have giveaways, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's still going on. And like I said, there's over 100 announced. I know we normally have close to 200 at this point, or over 200, but again, strange year. So we just roll with it.
Yes. And again, like, go look through this. I just listed basically like the big movies and TV, but there's like Lucasfilm Publishing and a ton of other publishing panels and comics panels and all kinds of stuff. And there's even like actors on smaller stuff. Like,
what's the one that was announced today about streaming?
That one I think is so interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
we should have asked Eric about that, because I would have liked to have heard what he thought about that.
I didn't want to like call them out, but I'm like, I feel like
it's a clever way to present yourself, get in front of some people, maybe get some social media attention, without making any unions angry.
Yes.
So we are talking about we
are talking about a show called Underdeveloped, which is going to be a new show on streaming, and it's basically like a mockumentary about a group of failed and inexperienced producers who are forced to work together in a production company. Not at all timely to the strikes. But what they're doing is they're having a panel on Saturday, but they've titled it Developing TV and Film for Streamers. So it's generic. But then the creator of the show and the cast are on it. And I'm like, this feels, I don't know, not quite right. But I think good for them for being like, let's find a way around this.
Yep.
So
what topic can we talk about that will be relevant? It'll fit in, but we won't get in trouble for it.
Yep. Okay, well, anyway, you can go check all that out. And then starting tomorrow, you can find the official schedule on Sked, not Event.
Yay!
The people have won. So,
yes,
get excited.
So we have, in case you weren't paying attention over the holiday weekend, apparently everyone forgot that it was a holiday weekend and announced so much news. So it
was wild.
just
Yeah,
a
a
small portion of it in a bit more detail. We put out our annual 2023 announced autograph signings post today, and that basically is a gathering of all of the autograph signings that we can find, whether they're at booths or whatever, as well as any rules that actually may be included from those listings. So if there was a signing at, let's say, IDW, and there's a post about IDW stuff, we also put it on this post. So you can just go through all the autograph signings if that's all you're really concerned about. So you can head out to the site and look that, and we will be updating it all the way up to very close to the con as much as we can.
Daily, maybe multiple
Daily.
times a day.
Probably multiple times a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The other big news that happened this week is that the online exclusives portal launched, and it really gave us probably one of our best looks at like what TV shows are going to be there, because all of a sudden several signings popped up for some different things, including Good Omens, which we all know, I think at this point, that I've been waiting for. But then there was also some other Amazon shows like Wheel of Time, Jury Duty. I know Aaron's excited about that one. Heels from Stars, and that one actually does list cast, so it claims that like Stephen Amell will be there and some other folks, but again, I think everything is TBD on the strike. But you can sign up for those. They've also got exclusive credits for different exclusive companies, which includes UCC Distributing, who will also have a walk-up line, Mattel, Funko, Biddy Funko, and Entertainment Earth, which this is Mattel and Entertainment Earth first time in the portal. So there's a couple of things real quick that I want to hit on. Number one, you have certain points each day. If you are totally unfamiliar with this, you can assign them to different things that you want each day. You cannot exceed your points. It does seem like this year, after you submit, you can edit them. And like if you accidentally submit all your points and like you only submitted 1 point instead of your full 12, you can go back and assign those. That's great. That has not been the case in the past at all. For Funko proper will be through the portal. Their Biddy Funko booth, which so far they've only shown off one exclusive, and the description was wrong, and the booth that they listed was wrong. But blame Nerdist, not me. Those are the only two for Funko that will be part of the portal. Mondo, Funko Games, and Loungefly will all just be walk up. I'm assuming there will at least be more details on Mondo. Normally, like in the olden days, they used to do drops at specific times. We'll have to stay tuned for that. And then if you are one of the people who are having issues submitting your points, we have an FAQ on our site. Go read it. Contact Comic-Con. I also tweeted this morning about a fix that worked for me, because you have through the 16th to submit your points, and you do not have to submit them early. You can wait. They will probably upload more things. There is no advantage to uploading early, but I did it anyway because I just wanted to test some things for you guys. And I couldn't submit. I was also getting the error, but then this morning, all of a sudden, even though I did like the exact same steps on Monday, it started working. So I do think that like they're working on it, but
We have a question about that for the Nerdist Funko error. Jordan asked, have we confirmed that the booth was wrong as well and that the biddies won't be at Rewind?
I did not ask that very specific question, but I asked like, I got very clear confirmation on which booths would be part of the lottery.
In the article,
and I feel like
the Rewind is not part of the lottery, right? I think you wrote that in the article.
yes, Rewind is also not part of the lottery. Rewind is walk up. But the Nerdist article, like there was the photo and then there was a description for like a totally different set than what the photo was of. And they claimed that the exclusive would be at the Rewind booth. But I feel like that has to have been like a typo or a misunderstanding or something. Like I'm just about positive that it really will be at the Biddy booth.
But you did ask them and they clarified that the Biddy Funko and the main
Yes.
Funko booth are the only two booths
Correct.
in the lottery itself.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And
And
then
I triple
Mondo-
checked like
yeah,
3
you
times.
tripled. You
even.
did. Mondo.
Because they told me
Loungefly,
something at
Rewind.
first that I was like, that does not sound right. Let me
Right.
ask this question again. So
Okay.
They like went to a higher up and got me a real answer.
There you go.
Yeah,
A real answer.
a real answer.
A real answer, a real Comic-Con answer.
Yep. Real quick in the chat, Ruben asked, is Funko open on Wednesday? So Funko proper is going to be open only to the Fanatics board members who got access through that. The question that I do not know the answer to is whether or not like the walk-up booths will be available for walk-up on Wednesday. So again, that includes Mondo, Loungefly, Games, and Rewind. I don't know the answer to that.
Yet. Hopefully,
Yet.
hopefully when they announce more stuff, they'll announce details at the same time.
Yes.
What a novel idea.
Slave 2 Leia asked, does Entertainment Earth still have exclusives to announce? Yes, they do. Do we know if Mattel will announce before the portal closes? I mean, they said they're doing their 12 days of fandom, and so they can't get through 12 days within just 4.5 of Comic-Con, so they got to start soon. So I'm fairly certain that they will be starting very soon. I thought they would start today, but they didn't. So
maybe they're actually 12 days will be right up, bumping up against Comic-Con like the day it starts or something.
The worst.
Don't say that. You've jinxed us. Let's talk about something better, like chocolate.
Oh, yes.
So we've got the annual exclusive chocolate bars were announced. These are the chocolate bars that are made by the chefs associated with the convention center. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a kiosk near Ballroom 20 where you can pick them up. This year the chocolate bars are going to be $10 each. There will be 4 lucky golden tickets inside, which can be redeemed for a $100 Starbucks card. There's 2 white chocolate bars, 1 milk chocolate and 1 dark chocolate. We have milk chocolate, Lunchbox Hero, peanut butter, Rice Krispie, and Concord grape jelly, which sounds so much fun. Crop Circle Crunch, that's one of the white chocolate ones with crispy sweet cornbread, dried blueberries, and honeycomb candy. The dark chocolate is Cosplay Crackle with strawberries, Pop Rocks, and basil. And the last white chocolate one is called Ube. It's house-made ube graham and torched ube marshmallow. So they all sound pretty good, but I'm thinking Lunchbox Hero for me.
I mean, one of each, so you can try them all, right?
Right. But did you also notice? Did you notice that the Crop Circle Crunch one is very like blog colored? Like it's white and it's got yellow, splash of yellow and blue.
You know what? I did not. I did not.
It's very blue. Very blog blue.
It is. Yeah. I just looked at a photo. Okay. We've talked a little bit again about which panels will be there, but I just want to give a shout out to the Collider Directors on Directing panel, which will be in Hall H. So yes, there will be a Hall H, kids. Collider's done this panel before, but this year they will have the directors of Deadpool 2, the new Haunted Mansion movie, and then Gareth Edwards, who did The Creator. And The Creator, if you have not seen, is actually on this year's Gaslamp banners. So Marvel is not on the banners, which is real sad because they've been on the banners even in recent years, like when Marvel Studios has not been in Hall H. But this year it's for The Creator. So
we forgive them. They'll be back.
We do.
They'll be back. We have the badge pickup hours. If for some reason you didn't receive your badge, if you're international or if you're like me and you have to pick up your badge, we've got badge pickup hours. They're starting at 1 p.m. on Tuesday for 4-day and preview night. There are also, they did some very helpful tables this year showing exactly where everybody goes in and out, attendee and industry badge pickup, lobby C, badge members picking up your complimentary items. So if you already have your badge, but you just want your bag and your lanyard, go to lobby E, glass doors, lobby A for RFID if you need help, deaf and disabled services, also at lobby A. And then there's also a table about where you can enter. If you're not lining up in the morning and you're just arriving, there's different doors you can go to there too. So that's all on our site, all the hours for every day. And I guess that we should also mention that if you have single day badges, you can pick them all up on Tuesday.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, you can pick them all up on Tuesday. If you opt not to do that, then you're picking them up the morning of,
Or after 3 p.m. the day
or
before.
after 3 p.m. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. Check our
what-
site for all those tables.
Yes. Well, I kind of already stole your thunder here, James, but you can talk about this next one.
Oh, okay. You give me the bad news again. Goodness. All right. So we found out because he answered a question on like Instagram or something like that, that James Gunn will not be at Comic-Con this year, but hopefully next, which means actually said probably next. But that means that there's likely no DC Studios presentation happening at all. Even though we might get some other DC stuff from comics and whatnot, it looks like Studios will not be there.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
Yep. What can we do? Downtown San Diego starting to get wrapped up for Comic-Con. We last week we got to see a wrap for Netflix for their One Piece, which starts at the end of August, and that I think was on the side of the Bayfront parking garage. And as Carrie mentioned, we've seen the banners. That's all we've seen so far. We're expecting a ton more, according to Cap Media Group. So we're just waiting to see them. But
I think
started.
they get there. I think they get there. They said July 10th. So
Yeah,
probably here in about a
so.
week, maybe we'll start seeing some
10th
stuff.
or 11th was when they're supposed to be starting or getting there, whatever they're doing. So,
Yep.
All right. So we have another visual guide from our friends at Parks and Cons. Sean and Carmel put out the visual guide and tips to outside Comic-Con. So navigating the gas lamp and tips and tricks on things that you can do to make your Comic-Con a little better with all that stuff around the convention center. And you can check that out on our site or head over to YouTube and search for Parks and Cons. And I think they're doing a live show or something maybe right after, but after this podcast. So I'm going to go hop on there and see what they're doing after this.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say we had the beloved exhibitor map and the list that was released, and we have both those on our website too. Over 550 exhibitors, over 900 if you include Artist Alley and Small Press and everything else. Got a nice big PDF map. Looks good.
Actually, no PDF map this year.
Oh, why isn't there? Oh, I'm sorry.
But still, it's a nice map.
No PDF map. It's a lovely map.
James.
Oh, is it my turn? Sorry.
It is.
Just spacing out on the no map thing. I'm like, why wouldn't they do a PDF map?
I don't know.
What's the deal?
I don't know.
Okay. Hey, so actually some good news is after WBDC wasn't on the show floor last year as an exhibitor, DC at least is back with their own booth at booth 4645. They're going to be doing signings and all the other stuff that you would expect the DC booth to do. It sounds like it's basically business as usual. They just skipped a year while they were doing that whole reforming thing with Discovery. They're going to have Jim Lee there, McFarlane Toys CEO Todd McFarlane. They're going to have merch. There's going to be a bunch of exclusives, which we will not be covering in our exclusive section, but we'll do a little bit here. Some Supermans, Batmans, Supergirls, Nightwing, all these different comics, some omnibus editions, all with exclusive covers that you can pick up at the show. There's going to be some shirts and pins and hoodies. I mean, it sounds like they're just doing a bunch of stuff, and they're going to be doing a bunch of panels like normal. I'm looking through it now, and there's like 10 panels. It looks like around 10 panels that they're doing throughout the weekend for DC Comics. So plenty of stuff, including, as mentioned in the chat, Jim Lee is doing his own Jim Lee and Friends panel on Friday at 6:00 in room 6A. So plenty of stuff to do with DC Comics. So that's really good to see.
Happy to have him back.
Yes, we had a couple of reader questions that we're going to answer real quick. What time does the schedule come out? It's usually 10 a.m. Pacific time. James asked, with Good Omens coming, what do we think of a Doctor Who panel? I mean, I think the odds are a lot higher than I did before we knew there was going to be a Good Omens panel, is what I think, because I had pretty much I mean, I assumed if there was going to be one, it was going to be like a screening or not something for a signing. So we'll see what happens there. David Norwood asked, could the boys spinoff be on the badge, but not have at least a screening or panel? I mean, it is entirely possible, but we will just have to see. I mean, I'm definitely hoping that they're doing something. Night Bodega asked, any word if we get a bag at the badge pickup area? You will get your bag, lanyard, and books up in sales, just like normal. And then Misinformation asked, will the chocolate bars be sold on preview night also? And I don't know the answer to that.
I do not either. It does not indicate on the article.
Yeah, it just says that they're on sale during the show up by Ballroom 20. So if the convention center's open and it's during Comic-Con, I'm going to say it's likely, but we don't know the definitive answer. And how fast do they sell out? Well, I recall, I think there were a few bars left on early Sunday morning last year, but it was like
Maybe
10 bars. And I bought like 3 of the last ones or something like that. So, I mean, they sell out by Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So yes, if you want those, like head up there earlier in the week than normal. Okay, so we've got a ton of other news and I'm going to do a speed rundown here. The shuttle schedule was announced. So if you were waiting on the map, that is available now. And there will be a free shuttle again going from around the convention center up to the museum if you want to stop by there. There was a Star Wars anthology book called Tales of Light and Life that will be debuting at Comic-Con. Simon & Schuster announced their giveaways, signings, panels, and more, and their signings also include Felicia Day. Chuck Jones is back, but this time instead of doing off-sites, they will be on the exhibit floor, where they will have all kinds of fabulous artists, which we're still kind of waiting on that information, but they also said that they will have voiced actor Eric Bauza, who is the current voice of like Bugs Bunny, and a bunch of other folks. The Babylon 5 cast, in addition to the panel, is also doing some signings. Kevin Smith, as we mentioned earlier, will be hosting a Chasing Amy documentary panel. Marvel has a ton of panels. Miraculous Ladybug is going to have a panel. Quirk Books will have giveaways. Abrams Books will have a Garbage Pail Kids, some prints, and then they're also selling some other Garbage Pail Kids stuff that you can find information on that on the site. Tour Books has a ton of author book giveaways, signings, panels, which a ton of folks like Paul Cornell, who was on our podcast earlier this year, Chuck Tingle. You can find all that information again on our site. And then Sandland is set to premiere. It was announced at Anime Expo that Bandai's upcoming anime film Sandland will be premiering at San Diego Comic-Con, with more information still to be announced. And that is our very quick news run through.
And we'll give you a break now. You can catch your breath.
For those of
catch
you,
your breath for a moment.
For those of you at a certain tier on our podcast, like I do like a speed rundown like of the news every week, and I try to keep it as close to 5 minutes as I can. I have yet to go over like 7 minutes. So
well, we're not at Comic-Con yet. So there's still time for you to hit that 9-minute mark.
Yep. We'll see. Okay, offsites, James.
Offsites. All right. So as we expected, Kevin Smith is back with his live shows and the Movies Pop-Up Restaurant. And a bunch of his live podcasts went live today, right?
Yeah.
And some of them are already selling out, and we expect them to sell out in the next couple of days, most likely. There's going to be photo ops, podcast recordings, signings, all kinds of stuff. You can check out the site for the schedule and, give a look as to what's happening with Kevin Smith and his buddies.
And let's see, in the Gas Lamp, over at Gas Lamp Lumpia, you're going to see the Lumpia and Lumpia with a Vengeance. They're going to be doing another pop-up. The Kid Hero Productions, they had premiered their film Lumpia with a Vengeance. That was last year. They're going to be back again. They're going to be doing screenings, signings, all sorts of things at their booth, which is the Kid Hero Productions booth, but then also at the Gas Lamp Lumpia restaurant. Actually, it's the Gas Lamp Lumpia Factory, which is on F Street. So it's going to be a new pop-up, a nightly mixer, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll have more details about that hopefully soon. And they had their first exclusive that they revealed, which is a bright yellow vinyl soundtrack LP on bright yellow vinyl.
Yep.
With a bonus holofoil print, which is pretty sweet.
Yep.
All right. And Adult Swim is back. They are not bringing a box that they just set in the center of the lawn. They're actually bringing their whole festival. And it runs from Thursday to Saturday. There's going to be meet and greets and music and comedy and games and giveaways and everything like that. Of course, the meet and greets and all of that are gone. They were tickets that were available for free, but now they're all gone. But they may pop up here and there if you want to take a look. But I think the one that everybody is most intrigued by is the Toasting Room Pop-Tart Dining Experience, which is running every day from Thursday through Saturday. From 5 to 8 and then from 1 to 4 on Friday and Saturday. So basically it's Adult Swim. They got a bunch of stuff. It's going to be fun. So check it out.
And Peanuts is bringing us Camp Snoopy. Their offsite's going to be 200 J Street, and they're going to have a whole bunch of camp themed activities like bird spotting, learning how to read a Peanuts themed compass, things like that. They're also going to have a lot of merch, a lot of really cute merch on sale, including one of those compasses, which I thought was really neat. And that's going to be Thursday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. That's going to be in addition to seeing them. They'll have their regular booth on the floor with a whole bunch of merchandise. A lot of camp themed stuff this year. I'm not
Super
sad
cute
about
stuff.
that.
Yep.
And we are going to be doing exclusives, which we even hit the button a little early today, and it's still taking its time loading. So we'll talking about those in just a second. Carrie, why don't you go over all the exclusives that we won't be showing little slots for?
All right, let's see if I can do this under 5 minutes. Patrick Balser showed off a time-hopping print. Monkey Minion showed off his exclusive this year, which is a really nice print. Tamashii Nations announced a new figure, which I feel like that's old. I'm not even sure why that one's on here. Well, now you've opened this, James, and I can't see anything. Jaded Toys showed off finally their Evil Ryu figure, and then their Blueberry figure went up for pre-sale on Entertainment Earth. Symbiote Studios, if you watched last week, we showed off a tote, but then they also showed off some pens for their rock, paper, scissors challenge that they do every year at the booth. You can stop by, battle their mascot, and you could win a free pen at certain points of the time in the day. Con Rangers showed off all of their new badges for this year, including an exclusive one for Found the New Con Rangers badge or booth. And if you noticed on Twitter, we are doing a collaboration within this year. And if you find us a prize pool, maybe you could win our Con Rangers badge. Disguise unwrapped a new Funko Pop mask for Michael Myers. That will be $25. Mattel is part of the lottery, which we basically already knew. Loungefly showed off a bunch of stuff, which we're not going to show you, but you can go see all that information on our site. Yesterday's had several announcements, including starting today. They announced that they will have a new line called Slabs, which are like 2.5 by 3.5 inch comic book art prints that are sealed in an acrylic case, blind boxed, and feature like different foil variant chase covers. And they're starting off with Witchblade 170 and Cyberforce #1. They've also got a Witchblade print. They're doing both of those in conjunction with Top Cow. Nucleus, we've been showing off a couple of Scott C's fun prints. You can find information on that on our site. DKE started their annual announcements, including today their annual Luke Chewy figure, and then they've got, it looks like three others that you can find on our site. Chris Mays has been doing announcements daily, including a really nice Guardians of the Galaxy print, the Transformers print, and then today he also showed off one for Ted Lasso. Martin Sue, his pre-orders will start on Friday, but he's been doing a bunch of Ted Lasso and Cats, his series of that. He will have both the originals and the prints up on Friday. He also today showed off a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 print. Inside Editions has a ton of really fun books, but I also feel like this is really old and should not be on this list. Let's see here.
I think we just got prices. That was what happened this week.
Gotcha. Legion M, we showed off 3 pens that they will have available. Butts on Things. If you have not checked that one out, that one's super fun. It's exactly what it sounds like, but it's just a bunch of butts on things. Speaking of Neopets, which is, the number one party of Comic-Con, they will have all kinds of pen exclusives and jewelry this year. Neopets will actually be at their booth. They've got a collection with J. Scott Campbell's that will be debuting at the convention. They've got the Dragon Prince set that will be debuting there, and then they've got new Neopets pens and other Rangers. There will be a pre-order online this Friday for his new holographic versions. KRS has been announcing all kinds of comic talent who will be at their booth, including several variants, including folks like Alan Qua with the Mandalorian #1 variant that's really nice. Toink, we showed off a couple more of their plush recently, including their bee and puppy cat stuff. And then let's see here. $7 a pop has been announcing tons of autograph signings, including Rufio. They announced today. They announced the Pocahontas voice actor, Irene Beddard. They've got Ashley Eckstein. Yes, Russ Marquand from The Walking Dead, all kinds of folks. Schedules and pricing for all of that will be announced closer to the convention. Titan Entertainment, we got their books, which look freaking amazing for the record, and their comics, which also include Jamie Lee Curtis's graphic novel, and she's also signing in the portal. If you noticed, we also got prices for all of those except for the comics. Little Shop of Pens showed off a Betty the Rocketeer pen, which is really pretty and based on an original illustration by Dave Stevens, the creator of the Rocketeer. Furry Felines announced their second wave of exclusives, which you can pre-order now, including some shirts and some figures and some other things. Digital Pimp, you can stop by their booth to get a free keychain. Find details about that on our site. Factory Entertainment showed off the last of their exclusives. Evan Birds showed off a print that they will have. It's 11 by 17. It's lots of fun. Be Cute showed off a couple of their exclusives, including a tote, a shirt, some pens, real nice stuff. Fat Rabbit Farm launched their second round of exclusives, which you can pre-order right now, including they did a Guardians Puff set, which it looks like a cereal box, and it comes with a shirt and some pens. It's real fun. And then finally, Priscilla Wilson announced her stickers, and she also announced the details of her meetup for Thursday. Thank you and good night.
Wow, so much stuff. That's not even everything, because we've got a little to go, which we actual slides for. So let's get started with that. And the first one is you mentioned yesterday's is a collaboration with Top Cow, and they are producing the Slabs, a new product featuring the Witchblade 170 cover, limited to 500 of these cards, and the Cyberforce #1 cover, also limited to 500. And you have a 1 in 5 chance when you buy these of getting a signed version. The slabs will be $20 each at either the Top Cow booth, $26.29, or yesterday's at $10.28, limit of 2 per person. And then the 2 versions of the Witchblade print, each limited to 250. Yesterday's will be the one with the purple background, and Top Cow will have the yellow background version. They are $40 each, and they are by Ukrainian pinup artist Sveta Shubina. So it's the actual first officially licensed SDCC exclusive from Shubina. And those will be available at their respective, actually at both booths, except for the print. So check them out.
Val Hochberg, we showed off a couple of her originals that she will have. Love Val, she's in small press at N12. She does these little mini originals, kind of like Patrick does, but she'll have 200 of them, and it's just kind of first come, first serve at the booth. She also made a couple of keychains. I don't suppose we've got photos of those. Oh, we do, yay. And the one that I really want to point out is the Hatbox Ghost. So if you're looking at this, do you see how his head is like on his face on that one? If you flip the keychain around, his head moves to the box, which I think is so fun.
It's very cool.
She's so cute, but she's got keychains, magnets, stickers, new prints, all kinds of stuff. Love Val. You should definitely stop by. Her stuff is freaking adorable. She's like the cutest thing in the world, and she's so nice. Go shop at her booth.
Next up, we have UCC Distributing, who is part of the portal, and they are bringing a ton of exclusives. You can pick up the things in these awesome giant Doorables bags. They have, I mean, we're not even going to be going through because they have so many things, but they have Doorables exclusives for Disney 100. They have some Yu-Gi-Oh plush, some Sesame Street plush. They have an exclusive Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron Spider-Beak hologram figure from, I think it's from, what's the name of the company? Is it Jazzwares makes those? But they have a hologram 1 of 1,000 version. They've got a Sonic figure. They've got a bunch of Miraculous Ladybug plush. They have some Jumbo Snackles plush, like Felix the Orange Dragon holding Pringles. I don't know why he's holding Pringles, but he is.
He's a snack dragon.
They have a bunch of Spy X Family pins and some Chainsaw Man pins, and I think they have some lanyards as well. They have a Stitch plush who is dressed up as the Cheshire Cat, which I think is awesome. And they have, my goodness, they have so much more stuff. They have a Bob's Burger Coochie Kopi as Louise Belcher Nightlight, a bunch of Tsunamis from Rugrats and SpongeBob and Ren and Stimpy and more. And they have, as you can see here, there's a Stitch plush. These are $14.99 each. They're 6-inch blacklight plush, and there's 5 different color versions that you can stick under a blacklight and have them be super cool looking, and so much more. So tons of stuff at UCC. So if you're interested in them, again, they're in the portal, or as Carrie mentioned, they will have walk-up times available that are usually later in the day, or if they're not busy at any given time during the portal times, if you want to stop by and check.
Did you mention that the bags will be free and that they'll have a different one each day?
I did not mention that. They will be free,
Okay.
and you can get a different one each day.
There you go.
That was
Thank
just
you
one
very
of the
much.
bags in the picture that you can get
Yes.
on one day.
Yes. I just wanted to point that out. Toddlands exclusives for Bob's Burgers have launched. They've got a lot of really fun designs this year. I really like that San Diego shirt. I think that's really fun. If you want pre-order for in-booth pickup, you have to order by end of day today, which for those listening later, you are too late. Wednesday, July 5th is the deadline. If you order after that, that's okay, but it will be for shipping only. And if you place an online order and you want it to be for booth pickup, you have to email store@toddland.com with your order number and say, I want to pick it up. Otherwise, it will not be brought to the convention. So make sure you do that. But they've got, again, all kinds of awesome items, pens, totes, shirts, super cute stuff. His like wheelie mammoth plush is freaking adorable, and it already sold out, but they may be adding more.
I was going to ask if we knew if they had made that decision yet.
I don't know, actually. So we will have to wait and see about that. But the wheelie was never going to be available at the convention anyway. That was the one item that was like, even if you order it now, it will be shipping after the convention. So they don't necessarily have to make that decision before like midnight tonight.
And IDW has a whole slew of comic books that they're going to be bringing. They've got a couple Turtles titles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Stranger Things crossover. That's going to be a foil paper variant by Kyle Lambert. They have Michael Golden's Marvel Stories, the artist edition. This is one of their huge, giant hardcovers. They'll have a very limited number of signed copies. Star Trek Day of Blood #1 exclusive. They've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Last Ronin, the Lost Day Special. This is Bishop. The artist is also going to be signing at the booth those comics. Lock and Key, Welcome to Lovecraft, 15th Anniversary Edition. This will be a black and white exclusive variant featuring the original artwork. They're also going to have a 15-year key lock and key. They're nice keys that they come in the little boxes or the bags. My Little Pony 40th anniversary variant cover, Rocketeer Den of Thieves #1 variant cover, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo #5 exclusive silver foil variant, a Dungeons and Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures #4, Sonic the Hedgehog #60. That one's also going to be a foil variant. Hunger in the Dusk #1. And then they'll have some other things that you can get at the booth or at their online shop, including variant covers of Earth Divers #7, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin, the covers, hardcover, Cosmonauts, book 2, Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons #1. And yeah, those ones will all be available at the booth or online. The first ones I mentioned only at the booth.
Let's talk about the official Comic-Con merch, because we've gotten a ton of questions about these. So these went up on Monday, the day that was not a holiday by any stretch of the imagination. These launched, I don't know if they just launched them too early, I don't know, but they launched 2 jerseys, a shirt, and some socks. And all of these items have sold out, but here's a couple caveats. #1, they should still be available for purchase on site at the Marriott. And they also said at least some of the merch, I don't know if it'll be everything, will be available at the Comic-Con Museum. So I'm assuming they've held some back. But I also don't think that this is all of the merch. In fact, I'm point blank positive, because when Comic-Con International tweeted and said like merch coming soon, they posted a photo of a hoodie, which was not posted on Monday. So we know at the very least that there's a hoodie that has not shown up. Whether or not they restock these particular items, I don't know. But again, you can always try your luck on site. And I feel relatively confident that they've probably held some inventory back. So I do think there's more to come. Stay tuned.
Don't panic.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. We've got some really fun stuff from artist Alex Pardee. Some of the first things he's got are a new series of Garbage Pail Kid inspired trading cards. The series titled Spoiled Sports. It explores the world of grotesque sports. He has the first card, the Ken Flem card, will be limited to 500 pieces, and it will only be sold as a 2-pack. And then you'll also receive 1 randomly chosen artist autographed Garbage Pail Kid cards from his Alex's Major League Baseball series. Each of those cards comes encased and signed by Pardee. And those looks like it's 2-pack of cards, $45 with a limit of 3 2-packs per customer per day. Also in the card department is Hug Face. Matches up an obscure accidental error card from Fleer's '89 baseball card set. It's a limited edition of 300, and it will be available for $75, a limit of 2 per customer per day. And his Alex's iconic Brightmares illustration is becoming a vinyl toy. And so this first one is limited to 150 pieces and will be available there. This is you might recognize the design from James Gunn's shirt that he wore during the Guardians of the Galaxy, during the Marvel Hall H panel. And it's not an exclusive, but he will be having copies of his Doppelgangers 2 New Batch book, his little zine, and with 30 new portraits in it. And he's got a print, and 18 by 24 limited edition print inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. It's called the Necro Bog. Print is limited to 50, comes signed and numbered, and each of those will be $60. Very special price. And you can also pick up one of those Brightmares t-shirts, so you too can look like James Gunn. And he'll be running a special on those, $30 each or 2 for $50. We like Alex. He's a nice guy.
Next up, we have Entertainment Earth, who is putting out a Spawn Deluxe autographed line art gold label 7-inch scale action figure. This signed edition autograph series is going to be $79.99. It's a 7-inch figure. It's limited to 500 artist signed pieces. Will be available at booth 2343, or you can pre-order it now. There will also be a non-signed version also available in the same manner for $49.99.
We've got a few loyal subjects items to talk about. They announced prices for all of their Turtles exclusives. Did we talk about those last week?
We talked about
Turtles
some of them, yeah, but I think we
Okay.
got prices and
Yep,
availability.
we finally have prices, which we have on our site. We also have information about their signings that they're going to be doing every day with Mateus Santaluco, Brazilian comic artist, best known for his work on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the black and white, the center picture there that you're seeing is the comic book series black and white variant 4-pack. I think that's the newest item that we've got.
Yeah, all that stuff's going to be available at the show.
Every single one of them will be available at the show.
Yep.
All right, next up, we have Mondo, who put out what they're bringing for albums and posters. And first up for the albums, we have The Batman, a Gotham Glow variant, limited to 500 copies, will be $50. Up with a new colorway, brightly splattered version, will be $40. And Wally, 2XLP album, is not a Comic-Con exclusive, but will be available at the booth at Comic-Con for the first time. And that one will be $40 as well. And then we have some posters, including this Dr. Doom and his Doombots from artist Aaron Craig, will be $75. We have Moon Knight by Greg Ruth. That is $85. There's only 140 of those. And we have Spider-Man 2 PlayStation game poster by Tomer Hanuka. And that one is going to be limited to 215 copies and is $85. And the details about these, when they're available and all of that kind of stuff, is on our site.
And then we've got the big boy, Funko, which we've only seen probably just a drop in the bucket of what they're going to have. So they
Coming
released
tomorrow.
Yes, starting tomorrow. They released a suite of Jurassic Park items, including a Rewind Ian Malcolm, a Pop Hatching Raptor, a 30th anniversary collector's box, which includes lanyard, keychains, pins. They have a Pop Classics. That's the one that comes in the beautiful little metal box, 25th anniversary. Thor, Love and Thunder Thor. A special limited edition Heimlich Pop. And this is one of these, it's the pop and the bag together. So you get a pop and you get a Loungefly bag. Even though it comes with a Loungefly bag, it will not be available at the Loungefly booth. You can only get this at the Funko booth. That is limited to 4,000 pieces. It will also be available online, just like all of these. That is $120 for the set of them. A few more rewinds, a couple of Disney ones. We have a Peter Pan rewind and a Buzz Lightyear, $12 for each of those. A Pop Vinyl Transformers 2-pack. That's Rodimus and Galvatron. That'll be $30. For the world of Star Wars, we have Darth Vader supersized soda. That's a limited edition of 4,500 for $40. And a young Leia Organa Pop. That one will be $15. In the world of the DC Universe, DC Super Friends Rewind, we've got Batman and a 1 in 6 chance of a chase of evil Batman. Those will be $12. Here are some of the, they've also got some of these are the Biddy Pops that we were talking about before. So this is a limited edition. It's a 4-pack, Blacklight, Batman, Batgirl, Joker, and then a mystery figure. And those sets will be $15 each. Barry Allen in the electric chair. That one will also be $15. The Funko Games booth has announced that you'll have your first chance at getting the Avatar: The Last Airbender Crossroads of Destiny game. We don't have a price on that one yet. And I think that's it. There'll be tons more starting tomorrow.
Yep.
So many more tomorrow.
So many
bet.
more.
So many more. Okay. Did we have any questions? It looks like we have one maybe from Gustavo. Forget them last year. Was it correct to wait until the last minute to sign up for the exclusive lottery to make sure you could see all the options? So again, it does actually seem like this year you can potentially like basically what you would have to do, I think, I have not tested it because I'm a little afraid to, but I've heard from some other folks that like you can cancel your submission and then like resubmit it. And again, if you only submit some of your points, I am positive that you can like go back and add new ones. But there is no advantage to doing it before July 16th, really. So what I would suggest you do is, yeah, just wait. Do it then, because they've always added additional things like later. They've always done that. And then we had a question about how does one attend the Neopet party? They will be giving away tickets at their booth, which again is the same booth as What's Your Passion Jewelry. You can go pick those up. I'm making the Neopets party thing this year. Like it's gonna be big.
Seriously, they're gonna just be like, how and why did we get
Do
4,000
you-
people showing up for our party?
I just want to tell you that like a friend, my crazy friend who's like hardcore into Neopets and who is freaking flying into Comic-Con for the Neopets party. I think he's insane. He like forwarded me the Neopets newsletter and he was like, I just want you to know, like, you're linked in here twice. Like they were like, find more information over here.
You're famous in the Neopets community.
Indeed. Okay, another reader question is Kathleen asks, where can I find the 5-minute podcast Carrie mentioned earlier? On our Patreon. We do have a Patreon. If you appreciate the work that we do, or if you just want to hear me speed read through the news every week, you can join our Patreon. All of the money goes towards our site and doing cool giveaways for you guys, like that shirt that we posted. We would love if you would support us. We greatly appreciate all of our patrons. We try to do cool things for you guys. Thank you to everybody who joined us last week for our annual patron hangout. Yeah, and that's where you can find me speed reading the news.
You can check out our site on the contest hub, where we have giveaways, not just for Comic-Con tickets, but for other things running at Comic-Con or during Comic-Con. Like we just had the contest end for IDW Publishing, who was giving away a pair of badges. And we currently have running the Adrenalizing Media giveaway that they're doing with variant covers and such. So if you want to check those out, the contest hub on our site.
Yep. We have also been doing Attendee of the Week. I don't know how many more we're going to do, maybe only like 2 more. But if you'd like to apply to be our Attendee of the Week and get featured on our site, details on how to do that are up on the blog.
Do we have information, Adrian asked in there about being a volunteer, but hasn't received an email? Is that something where they should just contact Comic-Con or?
Yeah, I would just contact Comic-Con.
All right. And I guess I'll read this one. Thank you again to our SDConCast sponsor, Adrenalizing Media. Be sure to stop by booth 2548 to check out their NR City Stories Extreme, a painful birth comic. They'll have Transformers composer Vince DiCola, yes, stuntmaster Andy Chang, and cover artists Lucio Perillo, Carla Cohen, Ralph Paul, and Eric Ipman Chan. Booth 2548, and you can find more information on social media at nrcity_universe. All right, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you again to Eric Goldman of Fandom for coming on and talking to us. We'll be back in 2 days, as we mentioned before, with part 1 of our schedule breakdown covering preview night, Thursday and Friday schedules. And then we'll have part 2 on Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, covering Saturday and Sunday schedules. We'll then be back next Tuesday on the 11th with our final podcast before Comic-Con, and of course our wrap up the Tuesday after Comic-Con at our normal time.
You can sign up for our newsletter. It is on the bottom of our site. If you have not seen it, we will be sending out a couple more. We send them out on Saturdays, which probably means you'll get, well, 2 more. Crazy.
Yes.
And then thank you again so much to our patrons who help keep the lights on over here. We really appreciate it.
I'm going to answer this question before we close the rest of it out. And David asked, how are people able to sell badges on eBay? Well, they can't. If they're doing it against the rules. But Comic-Con can, and there are badges from the official Comic-Con site. If you go to comiccon.org/eBay, I think it is, you will find out their name, and you can search on eBay for their sales. And I think they're actually selling for under $1,000 right now for 2 badges.
I think so. Yeah, I think I saw some going for like in the 800s earlier.
Yeah. So Comic-Con themselves do sell badges to make money for the museum. They support the museum. So if you find badges on eBay, make sure they are from the Comic-Con account, not from a random person, because those have the chance of being canceled on you or being fake. You know, they may sell their badge 10 times. Who knows? But anyway, there you go. So in closing, thank you all for joining us. And Erin, where can you find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Bavarian Erin on Twitter for now and Instagram. Carrie, where can we find more of you on the internet?
You can find me right now basically solely on SD_comic_con. But in the off season, you can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere at Dan Riegel, and you can also check out geekshotphoto.com for social media links for my wife and I, Beth. And Beth is our producer. She edits the show and does the slides and all the other things that gets this into your ears on the podcast. And also I'm on a podcast called Citizens of Lorcana, covering Disney's new upcoming trading card game that comes out every week on Fridays, if you want to check it out on your podcast platform of choice.
We are on iTunes. I'll take over for you there, Carrie. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or you can search SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please give us a review. We are also on Stitcher Radio and on Spotify, and the links will be in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all again, and everybody, Go
shawarma.
Yes.